Let's be honest, when I first picked up this used Pixel 8a, I wasn't expecting much. It's the budget Pixel, right? But after using it for a while, I've come away surprisingly impressed. The Pixel 8a isn't trying to compete with $1,000 flagship phones, but it nails the essentials in a way that only Pixel can. Solid camera? Check. Smooth display? Yep. Clean Android? Still unmatched. And the best part, you can now find this in great condition on used websites for around $250. So, is it worth your money in 2025? There's no better place to start than with the design. The Pixel 8a looks a lot like the Pixel 8, and that's actually a good thing, but it's made with cheaper materials. You get Gorilla Glass 3 on the front, and a matte finished plastic back. I am still blown away that this is plastic. I actually had to look it up online to make sure because I was certain it was metal or glass. It doesn't feel cheap at all, and the coating that it has feels incredible. It's one of the most comfortable phones to hold, thanks to its compact size and rounded corners. The plastic back is also a huge plus if you are using this for a travel phone or maybe a phone for one of your younger kids, because it's not going to crack like the more expensive Pixel's glass back. You still get the signature camera bar across the back, and I think it's a clean and timeless design. The phone is also rated at IP67 dust and water resistance, so it can survive accidental dunks, just not deep dives. The buttons feel great and very clicky along this very nice feeling matte aluminum frame. I think this whole device looks very premium. That is, until you get to the front. It's impossible to miss those bezels. Yeah, they're pretty thick. No way around it. It's one of the few reminders that this phone is a budget device, but Google did not cheap out on the display here if you can get around the thicker bezels. The Pixel 8a has a 6.1-inch OLED panel with 1080 by 2400 resolution, 120Hz refresh rate, and a peak brightness of about 2000 nits. Yes, it's smaller than the Pixel 8's 6.2-inch screen, but it's still very sharp, colorful, and perfectly usable even in bright sunlight. HDR10 is also supported, and you get always-on display features as well. It defaults to 60Hz out of the box, but you can switch it to 120Hz for smoother animations, which I definitely recommend. Just don't expect the dynamic refresh rate adjustment that you're going to find on LTPO tech. That's specifically reserved for the Pro models. But it's really not something you're going to notice unless you own both devices and are comparing it, one-to-one. In daily use, it's a beautiful display to use, and the fact that you can get this for around $250 for a 120Hz panel, and the newer iPhone 16e still uses a 60Hz panel, is a huge win for Android users. Another surprising win is the battery life. The Pixel 8a packs a 4,492 mAh battery, which is slightly smaller than the Pixel 8, but with the slightly smaller screen that the 8a has, it kinda evens out. It's pretty crazy to think that the S25 Ultra that costs a whole lot more than this device has a battery that's basically the same size. That shows you how much value Google is offering with the 8a. How is it in normal daily life? I get an average of 7 to 8 hours of screen on time doing things like taking phone calls, sending some messages to my family, watching YouTube, of course, listening to music and some audiobooks, playing mobile games and emulating games, and even playing Xbox Game Pass. This phone really does punch above its price point. Now for the bad news, charging is painfully slow in 2025 standards. Matter of fact, like 2020 standards, you're limited to an 18-watt wire charging and 7.5-watt wireless. It takes over 2 hours to fully charge from 0 to 100%. Yeah, that is total garbage charging speeds. If you're someone who tops off during the day, this is going to frustrate you, but if you're someone who's going to charge overnight, you're going to be fine. Google and Samsung really need to figure out charging speeds by now. Even the Pixel 9 series is frustratingly slow on all of its devices, but something that doesn't frustrate me with Pixel devices is the camera. And yes, the Pixel 8a does not disappoint here. You're getting a 64 megapixel main sensor with optical image stabilization, a 13 megapixel ultra wide, and a 13 megapixel front camera. And yes, it delivers that classic Pixel photo look. Great dynamic range, natural colors, sharp detail, and superb low light performance. If you just want a cheap phone that's going to quickly snap photos in any scenario, this does a great job. Outdoor shots in various lighting conditions look great, and indoor shots do a good job as well in good light or low light. Also, portrait mode is pretty solid, and edge detection does a decent job for the most part. However, I do think there is a little bit of room for improvement here. There's also no dedicated macro mode like on the Pixel 8, and the ultra-wide lens has a fixed focus. But for a phone at around $250, this is definitely not a deal breaker to me. And for video, you get 4K at up to 60 FPS on the rear and 4K 30 on the selfie and ultra wide. Stabilization is excellent and video quality is surprisingly good, especially in daylight. Night mode remains a Pixel strong suit. Low light shots come out detailed and vibrant with minimal noise, especially from the main sensor. It's pretty crazy how well the Pixel takes what would be a useless photo and makes it into one that looks like this. Overall, I was very impressed with the camera, but where I was only mostly impressed with the Pixel was the performance. The Pixel 8a is running the same Tensor G3 chip as the Pixel 8 and 8 Pro, paired with 8GB of RAM and up to 256GB of UFS 3.1 storage. Daily performance is smooth. Swiping through the UI, jumping through apps, or even editing photos with Magic Editor, it all feels very snappy. This is where the Tensor G3 chip works perfectly. For the average user who just needs a phone to do normal smartphone things and a little bit more, it's a great chip. If you're going to do any kind of gaming, however, you start to see some of the weaknesses of the Tensor G3. The Pixel 8a gets fairly warm if you're doing any kind of serious gaming, which will cause some throttling and you will see drops in performance. This is definitely nowhere close as good as any of the newer Snapdragon chips. Now, if you're a person who primarily streams games like Xbox Game Pass that I use a lot, you're going to be fine. And I might do a video on this separately, but that's one huge benefit of cloud gaming. You're not using the CPU and GPU as much because you're streaming it through a server. So if you enjoy cloud gaming, don't get stressed out about the lack of performance with the Tensor chip. Overall, it does a decent job in the performance category with only a couple of drawbacks here and there. Where the Pixel 8a does not come up short is the features. My device is running Android 16 beta and Google promises 7 years of software and security support. That means you're going to get updates until 2031. That's still a ton of time for a secure and supported software experience. You also get all the best Pixel exclusive features like call screen, direct my call, and hold for me for smarter phone calls, Magic Editor, Best Take, and Audio Magic Eraser in the camera app. You also get things like Circle to Search, which we've covered before. The Recorder app has better live transcription, and Google is always adding new features with regular software updates. That's the perk of having a Pixel. It's the cleanest, smartest version of Android that you can possibly get right now. No bloat, no clutter, just polished simplicity. And with all that said, here are my final thoughts. The Pixel 8a is one of the best compact Android phones that you can buy right now in 2025. It's not trying to be flashy, it just works. The cameras are excellent, the display is bright and smooth, and the software experience is top tier. Yes, it charges very slowly. Yes, it can heat up and throttle under intense gaming sessions. And yes, the bezels are pretty chunky. But for the price, you get a Pixel that holds its own in 2025 and will be supported by Google until the year 2031 for around $250. That's a lot of value in my opinion. Just one word of advice. If you can find the regular Pixel 8 for a similar price, and by the way, I will have a video about this in the future, so subscribe for more, just go for that instead. It's got faster charging, more premium materials, and slightly better cameras. But if you're staying on a strict budget, this might just be the phone for you, and I completely recommend it. Let me know in the comments what you think down below. Is there a better phone for the price? Let me know as well, and I will buy it and I will review it. Hit that like button down below and subscribe for more if you like what I do, and I will see all of you next time.